It is time for Hot Takes or Toast, as brought to you by Siegfried and Jensen with 30 years of serving Utah. Okay, here's a hot take. Is BYU the best team in the Big 12?
Hold on, Mr. Arizona State.
Their convincing win. Some BYU fans, do you think that? Do you think that BYU is the best team in the Big 12? Or, how about this? Should they have been in the Big 12 title game? Or should they have been given more serious consideration for making the playoff? So I just proposed three things there, Cougar fans. Are they the best team in the Big 12? Should they have been in the Big 12 title game? Third one, should they have received more consideration to be in the 12-team playoff?
Well, the discourse, PK, as I was sitting there in the Alamo Dome on Saturday night, turned to the latter there, meaning BYU, after beating SMU, who obviously is in the playoff but having won the ACC. In fact, they have a head-to-head win against the Mustangs in the way they were curb-stomping the Buffaloes. A lot of people were wondering why BYU didn't get more consideration for the playoff.
Now, I would agree with that. I mean, they might be the best team in the Big 12. We'll never know, but that's why you play the games. And somehow the Sun Devils showed that they won the thing, so we have to acknowledge them. I don't know that they're necessarily the best team, but they won it. They won it on the field, and away you go. And so they got the automatic bid, and for the Big 12's sake, hopefully they show well on Wednesday against Texas. We'll see how that plays out. So I can't say that BYU's the best team in the Big 12. I can say that they're as good, but they didn't win it out on the field. Should they have been in the title game? You know, it's just the life with the expanded conferences where teams aren't playing. I'm not sure if divisions is the way to go. Does that eliminate that? You know, maybe that helps this year. But then next year, if you had divisions, you could have two weak teams in one. If they had a West Division and an East Division, however they would break it out. The Pac-12 went north and south because that's the way it seemed to be called. Here we would go East and West, and you might have the best three best teams in the West, and so only one of them gets to go. So that can vary from year to year on how it plays out and what you think there. But I can agree, and I felt it before the bowl game, and I certainly feel it more so after the bowl game, that they should have gotten more consideration. There's two things that go into it to me, is that one, the Big 12 was just disrespected most of the season, and then BYU was the leading team that was disrespected the most. Because for whatever reason, it never seemed like there was any run that the Big 12 should get two teams in. And I suppose with Clemson, they needed Syracuse. Who they need them to beat? Pitt at the end of the season to get them in to play. And then they kicked the 50-some-yard field goal there at the buzzer to get the automatic bid. So should BYU have been in over SMU? Is that what we're going to do? Are we just going to eliminate the Big 12 or the Big 10 and SEC, their teams, and just have two of the smaller, if you will, Power 4 teams? Well, I should have had your bid. No, you should have had I should have had it over you. Or do we think they should have had it over Indiana? I don't understand why the Big 12, and in this case it happens to be BYU. It could have been any of those teams, any of the four. Obviously the automatic bid was what the Devils got, so they took care of biz, so they didn't put it in the hands of some committee. But I felt this way a week ago, and now I feel this way even stronger, that BYU should have been given more serious consideration. And if you want to go SMU, how about Indiana? Indiana just struggled to beat anybody. We were talking about this on Friday, man. Herb Street got all sorts of grief for his comments on that the wins don't matter. I think that was misinterpreted, but he never really clarified it, so he just let it speak for itself, and then you had other people arguing about his opinion that, to me, strength of schedule, who has the better wins? I think you can look at it and say, especially when the season is done, and you could say, well, this team had more quality wins. What do they do? In basketball, they have I don't know how they figure it out, but they have quad 1, quad 2, quad 3, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They got so many teams because there's 3 times as many teams in D1 for basketball than there are in football. So I think they carry it out. Is it quad 4? Is that they don't have quad 5, right? It's just quad 4.
There's just the 4 quadrants, correct?
Yeah, and can't they come up with something like that in football?
I think
Because it seems like BYU had more quad 1, I guess you would call it, wins.
Yeah, but they also had a pretty, what I would term a quad 3 loss when Kansas beat them in Provo.
That's it. Yeah. You can't explain away that. And so Indiana and SMU, is that a trade-off? They didn't have the quad 1 wins as many, but they didn't also have a quad lower loss.
Correct, yeah.
But why? It seemed like they had more run than BYU did, even before. I guess maybe they did. Maybe I'm arguing with myself because the Cougs got as high as 6, so they suffered a bad loss to Kansas, which was hot at the time. So that bothers me a little bit. I don't think the loss should have been a quad 1, so to speak, loss. It was a loss, but Kansas was playing well at the time. And so all those prior 1-score losses, they turned it around and got 1-score wins. Right? What was it, by 4 points? Was it 17-13?
17-13, yeah. And the other thing about that, PK, is Kansas turned around and they absolutely ran roughshod over Colorado themselves. So you're right. Kansas was really, really rolling at the time when they faced off against BYU. But it's just one of those losses when you lose to a team who didn't go to a bowl game. I think it downgrades a lot of what you accomplished in the eyes of the committee. And you mentioned BYU got as high as 6, but remember, they originally got into the college football playoff rankings and were in was it 14 or 15? And a lot of people were like, wow, they're ranked really, really low. And it was almost a begrudging move up the rankings. And as soon as they could drop them again, they dropped them like a stone.
They did. No doubt about it. No, yeah. But and I really can't criticize them for the loss in Tempe. Criticize the first half. All right, but they basically played the Devils even. The Devils won the first half, dominated the first half. BYU dominated the second half, and they gave up one long touchdown pass, and that did them in. But, that goes to my, somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose type thing. I don't know. It's a shame that they didn't get more run. At least get more run, even if you didn't get in. That was my thing, is I thought they merited more consideration to get in than they got. Now, they didn't get in, and so you can argue, what's the difference? You didn't get in, so who cares? It's like recruiting, I guess. If you finish second, well, what's the difference between second and 10th? You didn't get the kids you wanted. So what difference does it make? But it seemed like they didn't get the respect that I thought they should have gotten, and should have been more discussion about them. But there was no discussion. And the bigger thing that goes more than just the Cougs that I think is really important going forward is that the conference didn't get the respect. That's what's confusing to me, is the conference didn't get the respect. And the Big Ten And I realize, they're the big dog. But 4 teams versus only 1 team, yeah. And a really good quality team. And plus now we have the hindsight of seeing Indiana and SMU get basically run off the field, right? They weren't competitive in their first-round games. Would the Cougars have been more competitive? I can argue yes, but we'll never know. I got a question for you.
Okay.
That I'll throw out to BYU fans, and I'll do that next, and I think it's a good question, and we'll get to it next, so stay with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, I said I would pose a question to all you fans out there in Radio Land. BYU fans specifically, and it can apply to any fans. Would you rather have made the playoff and lose, not even really a bowl game, or would you rather have had what you had in the Alamo Bowl before 64,000 people and all these television eyes because it's Colorado and just demolish them? What is your choice? You make the playoff, your season ended a week ago, you got beat, say you got run. Say you would have been like SMU or Indiana, or Tennessee for that matter, wasn't very competitive against Ohio State. They got run off the field in Columbus. Would you rather have that, or would you rather play a bowl game where you got the full attention of college football and maybe even some NFL fans that you can siphon off because they want to watch Dion, and then you destroy that team in the manner that BYU did? Is that not an interesting question? I think it's a beautiful question, if I do say so myself. What would it be, Yawk? You grew up in this area, and you were a fan and all that stuff of the locals. Would you rather have been in the playoff and lost, or win the bowl game in going away style in the manner in which BYU did?
While it was an impressive win, there's zero doubt about that. I would rather have had a chance to play for it all, PK. Give me the playoff.
Really? Because, see, I don't think it's akin to going to the NCAA tournament in basketball, losing in the first round, as opposed to winning the NIT.
Okay.
I don't think there's any question you'd rather be in the NCAAs as opposed to the NIT, even if you win the NIT. Nobody remembers who won the NIT last year.
That's a good point.
I can tell you, UConn won the second consecutive title for the Huskies last year.
From my vantage point, Cougar fans, by and large, I think wanted to see BYU have a chance to win another national title, and the only way you do that is get into that college football playoff. Even if you do go one and done, you were in the field there, and that you had the chance to go for it. Yes, like I said, it was a good win for BYU, national attention, a lot of people tuning in. Trust me, I was there. I thought it was a 60-40 split in favor of Colorado fans-wise, and you got a lot of people watching you in that game, and it's going to leave some people wondering what you could have accomplished, but I would have rather have seen BYU actually in the playoff field.
I don't know about that, man. I'm a little unsure about that. Normally, I would say yes. I'd agree with you. But looking at the ramifications, I'm unsure that I would do that, because I can make a strong case, go the other way. And if you go the other way, what you got cooking here is, and you're going to finish the season on a high note. Everybody's going to be happy. I was getting texts from BYU people on the staff. 9 Power 4 wins, baby. Everybody felt good about it. You're building momentum. Next year, you'll surely start the season in the top 15, assuming that, most of these guys that all these guys that we expect to come back or eligible to come back do come back, right? And so you got tons of momentum going into next season. Did I see SMU? Did I see Jennings put his name in the transfer portal?
If he did, I missed that. I can check.
Check that. Check that for me. I mean, what momentum do those guys have? Who has more momentum going into the next season right now? BYU or Indiana and SMU? I can argue strongly that it's BYU, couldn't I?
Last headlines with regards to Kevin Jennings, and SMU says he's going to confirm. He confirmed his return to SMU a week ago.
Okay, good. Good for them. That would suck if that happened.
But to add to your point here, PK, I guess the one thing, if you're a BYU fan out there and you're reveling in that win as you should, the thing is this is not a BYU team that this is like a one and done scenario on paper. They've got a bunch of those pieces that did what they did this year with an 11-win season coming back. So I guess in some ways you can kind of thread the needle here where, yeah, you enjoy the win now, but the hopes are you do make that playoff field next year with this same squad.
Right. Yeah. Right. I can say, yeah, right. I like saying, yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
I'll say it one more time.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I miss DJ. He'll be back.
He'll be back soon enough.
I asked you that question. We'll continue the discussion, and I think we need to revel. Put the question up on Facebook. We need to let BYU fans revel a little bit in their win and just take that for what it's worth. So we'll get to that next. Stay with us, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.